I went to a Super Bowl party this weekend, like most of you probably did if you're in the United States. It was mostly coworkers and fellow grad students who didn't particularly care about the actual sports going on. The host of the party is from Kansas and made this amazing combination of cinnamon rolls and chili. Look, cinnamon rolls and chili might sound whack if you've never tried it, but I think it's incredible. I've actually never hosted my own Super Bowl party, but I try not to mooch. My fiance and I brought homemade chocolate-covered pretzels and Oreo brownies. And then it came for the halftime show. To understate things heavily, there's obviously been a ton of controversy about this year's Super Bowl halftime show and its main entertainer, Bad Bunny, well before kickoff ever started. And I was certainly primed for things to get at least a little weird. I live in Ohio and am finishing my master's degree at a conservative Christian university. So I had a good idea of where sentiments might lean, sentiments that I disagree with. What saved me from getting mad before things began is that a lot of the graduate students I work with have much more nuanced opinions on matters than you might expect when we actually get to talking. They're devout Christians, which means they're staunchly pro-life, a position you may well not agree with. But they definitely do not follow down cleanly any party line from there. Most are unhappy enough with the current administration for one reason or another. They think talking heads like Peterson or Shapiro are utter clowns, and almost everyone I talk to here really hates artificial intelligence. We booed every AI commercial, which is great. I hate AI. So that's different enough from the conservatives one might interact with on social media to make me think things might play out a little differently here. Which is why, when the halftime show was immediately turned off when it started, I was floored. I was pissed. For the record, it wasn't even the person hosting who turned it off. She was still busy hanging out, eating snacks, and not really paying attention to the game. It was a guest and his girlfriend who took it on themselves to block the projector and invite others to play a card game instead of watching the halftime show. That was certainly going to be too provocative and scandalous for any God-fearing Christian to feast their eyes on. I looked him right in the eye and asked him 3 times why he had turned it off. He said nothing and tried to deflect and turn to small talk with me, since it was obvious that I wasn't exactly jazzed about this unprompted and loaded decision. It was an extremely awkward display. I've encountered them before and never had a problem, but it just made them look completely ignorant and thoughtless. The host wasn't happy about it afterwards because she just likes Bad Bunny and was mad they turned it off without asking her with no political context, which I think is fantastic. So I've got a lot of thoughts on this sort of fake rhetoric that people are doing right now. People are spinelessly mantling and taking on a more sound and innocent argument in order to hide the fact that their real problem with this situation is that they are ignorant or bigoted. They actually have a very controversial opinion and want to do something about it, but they don't have the guts to stick up for that one if they're cornered or confronted. So they're going to go with a more calculated response that sounds more agreeable. Here's my thesis. If you have a certain opinion that is possibly unconventional, but that opinion lines up with a lot of more popular bad faith, bigoted, and ignorant arguments or sides of a conversation, you need to put in the work to set yourself apart from those problematic viewpoints if you actually do not agree with them. Yeah, I'm sorry, that sucks and it makes things tricky for you, but that is just a result of the current political climate. There is not room for plausible deniability right now. If an issue is black or white, you don't get to feign being gray if you actually aren't. That is strictly cowardice. Let's relate this back to the actual concrete topic at hand. Suppose that you aren't full of baloney and are actually morally concerned with the content that you are putting yourself in front of. That's your prerogative. You're allowed to feel that way. This might sound far-fetched depending on where you grew up and your experience with people, but I have met a lot of homeschooled Christians over the years who sort of had their heads in the sand politically and are just rather sensitive to mainstream media without inherently being bigoted. I know a few people, not a lot, not as many people as social media would have you think, who have never watched a Super Bowl halftime show, but watched the rest of the game. And that's just how they've always done things in their family. They're just generally weary about mainstream culture, and they aren't specifically opposed to one artist, race, or cultural identity. Again, I get that sounds crazy if you're only interacting with the worst types of Christians on social media or otherwise, but at least from my anecdotal experience, take that it's somewhat possible, that position. But still, that number of people is a very small number, and I don't think these types are also even the types to have social media accounts and be talking about these things politically on social media. The people that you and I are seeing argue that the halftime show is too provocative and scandalous to watch are putting on a charade. But let's pretend you are one of those people who didn't want to watch Bad Bunny at the Super Bowl just to keep things wholesome. And it's totally not about the politically and racially charged discourse happening everywhere else. For one, if you're actually consistent on this viewpoint, I sure hope your Caucasian keister wasn't trying to crip walk with Kendrick or Serena Williams during last year's Super Bowl. Matter of fact, if you're consistent, you hopefully actually turned it off every year this decade, especially when Bad Bunny was also a guest in the halftime show back in 2020. After all, none of these performers, as talented as I or anyone else might think they all are inherently promoting good Christian values. If you are a tried and true believer in this position and have actually done these things, then at least we can come back to a more normal discussion of agreeing or disagreeing, and you just have a hot take, right? But even these consistent people, these theoretically consistent people, are going to run into the problem of bad optics. The problem of their argument looking bad because it coincides with the arguments of other very less well-intentioned types. Your concern of not watching a possibly scandalous or provocative halftime show lines up with exactly what a lot of people are also saying as an excuse to get out of the stronger and more true accusation for them that their viewpoint is actually politically and racially motivated. If you are just concerned about what content you're watching and honestly really not racist at all, wouldn't you want to be careful? You have to be concerned with not being roped in with and supporting the views of racists and white supremacists, counted as another voice or a tally tick in support of those views. I'm thinking about Larry David's self-portrayal in Curb Your Enthusiasm. This guy is like the poster child of this argument. Okay, so in a ton of episodes, Larry usually has some reasonable hot take on some small social action, and the way he defends his opinion gets him to a comical situation where people accuse him of being a racist or a bigot somehow. Great comedy, great show. If you've seen even a part of the show, can't you just see an episode where Larry turns off the Bad Bunny halftime show because he doesn't like trap music and then gets flayed for it because of the greater political and racial implications? If he wants to defend himself, he's got to put in the work to defend the point that he really just doesn't like trap music. Obviously in the show, it still wouldn't work out for him. So, okay, so here's a second example. If that one didn't get you, think about it this way. Suppose that a buddy of yours told you that he really likes going to Hooters. He's there like once a week. Now, be honest, why do most men go to Hooters? If your buddy really isn't going there for the same reasons, then he has got some explaining to do, right? Get the receipts out, maybe even the literal ones. No, you don't get it. He's a big foodie. He's actually been to 90% of the restaurant chains in the country, and he can tell you with certainty that they just make the best burger and wings that he can get at a franchise establishment. He doesn't even make eye contact with the waitress. He mostly orders pickup or delivery. It's weird, but is it possible? Yeah, I mean, that's a possible argument. He's just got to put in some work to show you that he isn't like a vast majority of the other men that like going to Hooters. And he has to go a little bit further if he wants to denounce the usual crowd of guys that are going there and what they're going there for. Otherwise, he becomes part of the perceived problem. Now, if you're just convinced that I'm some bleeding heart liberal and you're somehow still watching, but checked out on my opinion and ready to fire up a mean comment, which thanks for still being here, I guess. And you're still welcome to do that. Can I tell you something that might surprise you? I don't like Bad Bunny's music. I'm not into trap music. In a vacuum, any other year, I would have made fun of him tastefully. Yes, he's a talented artist, well decorated, Grammy Award winning this year. I'm happy for him. It's just not the kind of music at all that I enjoy. I think the triple hi-hat trap beat, I think just lazy and overused. I'm someone that likes good and unique drum tracks in music, and it feels like most trap music is just copy-pasting the same lazy beat over their song and calling it a day. Anyway, not liking his music does not justify whatsoever the amount of people giving him and his fans putrid and vile hate in the name of supporting racial supremacy. And, as a fellow American, I do not have to like his music to defend his dignity as a human person and say that he deserves a place here just like anyone else. I'll end with this. I understand the task at hand that I have laid out is tricky, it's complicated, it's nuanced. It's not very enjoyable to have to get into at parties. If you have hot takes that are accidentally, and really truly accidentally, putting you in company with people who are only out to hate, to divide, to destroy, and you are not willing to put in the work to distance yourself from or denounce those groups of people and those ideologies, you either need to be willing to not be taken seriously by the people you might be arguing with, or honestly, you just need to sit these things out and keep them to yourself for a while. The cultural and political climate today is a mess, and that's not just in the United States. Really bad things are happening everywhere. Keep your head up, try to focus on good things and the stuff that's in your control in your own world, and don't feel like you need to completely empty yourself day in and day out participating in the social discourse. Take a break. And when you are just exhausted with everything, try not to contribute to the growing division out of a lack of tact or laziness. Also, to my Christians, if you do believe yourself to be a devout and good-hearted Christian who believes that all people are created equal in God's image, and you're tired of other Christians putting politicians or political parties and ideologies before God that defy the gospel, preaching hatred and bigotry, giving Christianity a bad rap, and it's time to speak up and show them what you believe Christianity to really be all about. Find the nuance. Proclaim the truth. Do not let bigots and racists speak for you. Look, there's no one fun or easy way to talk about these things that is going to make everyone happy. So I'm sorry if my resolution here is not perfectly satisfying. This is a bummer of a video. The comment section. Oh, the comment section. Oh, the comment section. Man, if this is the first video of mine you've ever seen, I don't normally do this stuff, nor do I really plan to in the future. This phenomenon just really got me, and I want people to be a lot more careful. So don't subscribe if you're looking for more gripping social commentary. The next videos are just about video games. But if you have made it this far, thank you for being here, and thank you for listening.